Okay, so with regard to your issue about the intrigue that I'm the writer, not somebody in an ivory tower, I suspect that if I were in an ivory tower, I would not be able to write this book, because you have to be very politically correct.
Right.
You have to play by the rules. You can't bump against the pinnacle, apex pinnacle power players.
Right.
You have to be a little careful. You want to get tenure. You don't want to necessarily cause commotion. And you're almost conditioned, to carefully play within the box. So I'm not so sure I could have written this work if I were in that context. Hopefully I could have.
But you might well have found yourself trying to sort of deal with some tiny little question that was relevant in order to get the right papers published in the right journals and the right...
Again, I have highest respect for the academics. Right. I'm clear. But just on your point, I'm not so sure I could have. I'm a little dubious that I could have. I would have probably, try to play more by the rules, so to speak. But again, they're great people in that milieu, and I respect them.
So let's dive in to the guts, as you say. I think somewhere in the first of these two books, you approvingly quote some sort of axiom or some sort of saying in Jewish scholarship that if you can't explain it to an 18-year-old, then you haven't got it clear yet or something. So I think that's a sort of, I'm older than 18, but I'm an 18-year-old in philosophical terms. I'd love just the most basic encapsulation. Tell me if I'm wrong. It seems to make sense to start with specifically with the theodicy question and then move on to the even bigger question. But if you don't want to address it that way, then start way.
Okay, you want to know what the guts is.
Yeah.
The guts is potential, infinitely iterated, drives the cosmos. That's the guts of it.
Okay.
And
the t-shirt. The
t-shirt,
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And of course, you say, well, you have to explain what we mean.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I do explain what I mean. It takes a few sentences, but that's the guts of it. And I start off with the theodicy question, because that's sort of front and center, I'd say in Jewish intellectual circles, at least in the 15 to 35-year-old zone.
And this is to clarify, this is how do you reconcile all loving God with the existence of evil in the world?
Right. The theodicy question is basically, if indeed there is a God, and this God is all powerful and all merciful, then why is it gross evil? How do you reconcile the two? It's sort of how do you square a circle?
Yep.
It's an ancient question. And now, as a youngster, I went to Yeshiva Forest Hills. It was a modern Orthodox Jewish day school in Forest Hills.
Okay.
And with double curriculum, secular studies and, so to speak, Jewish studies. But in both areas of studies, there were basic questions which no one could answer.
Yeah.
And they were often parallel questions. So in the Jewish studies department, the question was, well, if there's a God, where does God come from? That's often called cosmology/cosmogony in academic circles.
Right.
And then, of course, there's a question called theodicy, which we just discussed. If this God is all powerful and merciful, then why is it gross evil? Okay. Now, in the secular area, the question is, well, okay, we hear about the Big Bang. Okay, interesting. Where did the Big Bang come from? What ignited the Big Bang? Had the Big Bang come out of nowhere?
Yeah.
Where does it come from? And then you have this basic question, like, who are we really? Who are we? I mean, we know sort of who we are, but who are we in the context of the whole universe?
What does it mean?
What does it mean?
Yeah.
Like, we have no real context. We have context from the planet Earth, it's millions of years, evolution, yada yada, but what's this all about? Okay, so pretty soon it's clear to me I'm not going to get an answer, not in school, not in synagogue, and not at home. Although everyone's smart and means well, but it's clear to me.
Get that right.
Never quite get there.
Right.
And then I went on to high school and college. I'm going to end up in Cambridge, Mass.
I'm just double checking that this is picking us up. Sorry,
yeah.
I'm pretty sure that is working. I will test it again in a minute.
Then I went to school in Cambridge, Mass.
Yep.
And I wasn't in philosophy, but I would go to all the lectures. There's a place called Hillel. There's often the Jewish student union called Hillel.
Yep.
And the Harvard Hillels are actually very powerful. It's for drawing big brains to their particularly Friday night. And you go to all of them. And every so people try to hit those issues, but basically surrendering in a nice way. This is the best I can do. The best I can do is really not good. So, on my to-do list was to see what I could do.
Right.
Okay. And my working hypothesis was that there is a universe. I am here. I am real. So there must be an answer. There must be an answer to the question. And a lot of brilliant people have not been able to do it. How is it possible that so many brilliant people have missed it? So my working assumption was that it's very subtle and hiding in plain sight. That was my working assumption.
Okay.
That's the only way all these brilliant people over 1,000 years could have missed it. It's subtle instead of hiding in plain sight. That was my working assumption. So, very nice, but how do you go from there to the next thing? The next stage, I said, well, I have to open my eyes, open my heart to everything.
Right.
Be open, like a baby.
Right.
And let me just, probe gently this and that, without getting too intense about anything. Maybe with a little luck, it'll emerge.
Yeah.
So, and then, roughly 1982, I was actually in Barbados.
I was going to say, I read a little
Right.
bit about there's
Right.
some experience on a beach.
Right, and
Were you reading stuff? Had you
No,
been
it's working
planning
on the
this?
beach. I'm often good at the beach. I'm often like, my brain is working a little better.
Right, okay. You're just on vacation.
Yeah.
Right.
And then, clearly, if potential is at the core of the universe, and if potential is at the core of the divine,
Okay.
then both the divine and the universe have to make room for man's freedom, for man to reach his potential. Okay?
Okay.
And in order to have freedom, there has to be withdrawal of control,
Yeah.
just like in a family.
Mm-hmm.
In order for children to have freedom and potential, the parents must let go of oversight and control. And therefore, if that's what's happening in the picture, that there's withdrawal of oversight in order to give man freedom to reach his potential,
Mhm.
because you must allow him to have potential, or else you unravel the whole cosmic order.
Right.
And therefore, although there may be an infinite divine, all-powerful, even infinite divine must withdraw to give man freedom to reach his potential. Because if it didn't, you unravel the entire cosmic order. That's the guts of it.
So my first response to that is to say that there are other traditional attempts to solve this dilemma, which have to do with humans having freedom to do bad things as well as good otherwise, but because the grant of freedom is so central to God's plan. You clearly believe this to be completely different to those approaches, and yet it seems quite similar.
Okay, first of all, the expression is nothing totally new under the sun.
Sure.
There's nothing totally new under the sun. Okay, I'm putting together a few important concepts. You see, I'm saying there's no choice. If there's divine, the divine has no choice here. That's one of my crucial pivots. Divine has no choice but to withdraw.
Okay.
It has no choice but to give man freedom to reach potential. Because if it didn't, there could never have been a cosmos to begin with, or a divine to begin with. I'm saying there's no choice in the matter. It is not volitional
Right.
on the part of the ostensible divine.
So whereas in those other theories, God
choice.
could have made humans without free will, but chose to give them free will, you're saying that there's
no choice.
That's a bit of a strike against God being omnipotent.
Correct. It takes the edge off it.
Right.
If there is a God,
Right.
it takes the edge off it. Okay, and sometimes you have to take the edge off it to protect it.
Okay, right.
Okay. But I'm also saying that there's literally withdrawal. I mean, it's hard for me to conceptualize the God of Israel standing, if there is a God of Israel, as we perceive it, standing in Auschwitz in real time, watching the atrocities.
Absolutely.
So I can't handle that.
Yeah.
So according to the schema, if there is a God, as we sort of understand it, at least as by Judaism understand it, there had to be withdrawal of divine here and now consciousness
Right.
to allow man freedom. So if there's a God of Israel, it's not operating in real time, not observing us in real time. And that's crucial in order to give man freedom. Because even the God of Israel could not hold himself back intervention in real time.
Oh, okay, so the idea that another difference with maybe those other set of theories I'm referring to is you would imagine that even if God thought that free will is important, with something like the Holocaust, you step over that.
Break the rule. But I'm saying, even at the risk of unraveling the cosmos.
Right.
Then we're playing with metaphysical concepts here, talking in grand terms, God, this and that, right?
I mean, part of the thing that concerns me, one thing that concerns me is to make sure I'm picking this up correctly. So let me just double check, and you can edit this bit.
Right. Okay,
yeah. So the other thing that intrigues me here is, I mean, you keep saying if there is a God, and I'm interested to know whether this is just an area of discussion that is closed to somebody who comes along to it and is an atheist. I mean, because when all through the history of attempts to solve the problem of evil, the atheist has a very simple answer. There's no dilemma here because there isn't a God.
Okay, let's try to divide the world into three groups: atheists, agnostics, and those who are simpatico.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have difficulty dealing with the atheist who says you're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I can handle the agnostic. I mean, a good part of me is agnostic myself.
Okay.
So,
but isn't the simplest? If the Occam's razor,
atheist has his own set of problems.
Right.
Why are you here? Where did you come from? Why is there a universe?
Right.
His own set of major problems.
Pretty big ones. Yeah.
Big ones.
Yeah.
At least agnostic is more open about it.
Yeah.
That I don't know. I think that's a very legitimate intellectual position, frankly. And I think secretly most Jews are at least 50% agnostic. Don't tell the truth. I think that's the rule.
Right.
Despite this and that. Because we're dealing the audience, the atheist position. I don't see how it's intellectually defensible. Please forgive me, atheists. I can understand the agnostic position is a very powerful position, and the religious position has to deal with these issues.
So you either need a solution to the problem of evil, or you need a solution to the problem of why is there anything and why are we here in the first place?
Right, and remember that book 2 leaves that whole theodicy issue to book 1.
Yeah.
And it goes for the whole grander questions. And
before we get sorry to interrupt. The other question that is weighing on my mind is to do with the word potential, and what the status of this word is and what the work is that it's doing, because it seems to me that somebody not fully understanding your work at this point, as I don't, there's always a risk with something that purports to be an explanation that it's just a labeling of the problem rather than a solving of the problem.
So ask the question, pose the challenge.
So the question is, what nature of thing is potential in your system, and couldn't it be said in criticism of your system that you're simply taking a mystery and labeling it potential and then walking away without having done any further explanatory work?
Well, I spent the whole book on it, but I spent 2 books on it.
No, I'm not.
Okay, no, and I think that to me, you're asking the crucial question.
Right.
The crucial question is what does it mean?
Yeah.
What are you saying?
Yeah.
What is potential that you're talking about?
Right.
Okay. And so obviously, if it's eluded the Grand Masters for a few 5,000 plus years, it'll take more than 60 seconds. But I'm here. Okay.
I've got more than 60 seconds.
Okay. In my mind, the concept at the tip of our noses, the concept that was hiding in plain sight all along, is what I call potential to the infinite power. Okay. That you are an embodiment of potential, or corporeal embodiment of potential, as we all are. That the universe was a modality for potential to reach expression, actualization. Now, the parallel question is, which I always challenge the Big Bang people, so what actualized that which you say always existed? the smallest subatomic particle. Where did that come from? So I posit that you can't not say that any classic thing always existed. No matter how small it is, oh yes, well, where did that come from? Aristotle breaks down on this problem, as does Maimonides, as does everybody else who tackles it. I say there's only one concept that you can legitimately say with conviction always existed, and that is what I call potential/possibility. If I say to you, I can say with conviction that potential possibility is eternal, by definition, I maintain it's hard for you to challenge that proposition. It's taken me 20 plus years to get to that one proposition.
Because it's impossible to imagine a state of affairs, however far back you go, even before any of the other things we know, where you could say that there wasn't possibility.
Bingo. That's precisely, you said it better than I ever did. Bingo.
Because of what has happened since.
Also because of that.
Right.
But also by definition.
Right.
By definition. But mainly because of what's happened since. So obviously there was something possible.
Right.
Therefore, okay.
No, please carry on. I'm thinking hard.
I run with that football.
Okay.
I have my little football, my little, football 6-year-old,
right.
Little football, and I run with that football.
Yeah.
I build a complete grand metaphysics. I simultaneously solve all the key issues. At least they all fit together.
Right.
I may be wrong, but it works. It's powerful. It's more powerful, clearly, respect to Harvard, Oxford, etc., than anything you've got.